Hello, Contrarians listeners, Contrarians followers, watchers from all over the world. Here we are with the latest Contrarians warm up. This one is for our Jaws the Revenge episode, a movie most of you have probably heard of, many of you have probably seen, because this one seems to be one of those that the internet loves to hate. Therefore, stands to reason that the Contrarians will just love to love. We're going to talk about Jaws the Revenge as if it was the real shark movie that everybody should be worshiping instead of that Spielberg original. Now, Alex, as usual with these warm-ups, I'm going to have some quotes. You're going to have some trivia. We're going to have the Josh Gad Minute. As it happens from time to time, the pool of reviews on the Rotten Tomatoes website is pretty shallow, and there's a lot of broken links there. So went back to the trusty Letterboxd, and I pulled all sorts of comments from there. I'll start with Sean Fennessy, who rewatched Jaws Revenge on July 16, 2020, gave it 2 stars and said, "This movie opening with Sean Brody getting eaten by an evil shark with a grudge and quickly becoming a shark from hell story as Mrs. Brody heads to the Bahamas where said shark follows her to settle a shark score. Some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen." Don't you think that description makes it sound pretty awesome, though?
Yeah, it's like some complicated messaging there, but yeah, not too bad.
he just made it sound like it was an awesome supernatural tale. Sean, 2 stars, and I think that anytime that you rewatch a bad movie, the bad movie won. So
yeah,
fool me once, fool me twice. You're George Bush.
Can't get fooled again.
Yeah. Adam Bolt. He just watched this one, April 17, 2020. A lot of lockdown watches for Jaws Revenge. And he just wrote a little song, and I'm assuming it's a song. It goes, Michael Caine in a Michael plane, using his Michael brain to stay Michael sane until the shark is Michael slain. Would you call Jaws the Revenge a Michael Caine vehicle? Or is that taking it too far? No.
He's there and he operates a vehicle, several. But yeah, definitely not. Also, missed opportunity not doing it like to the cadence of Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire.
Michael Caine in a Michael plane, using his Michael brain to stay Michael sane. The shark is Michael slain.
Missed opportunity, man.
Yeah. Maybe it's supposed to be like that, and I just, I'm not talented enough to fit the lyrics to the music. I like Michael Caine. I think I said on the episode I was surprised that he was there as much as he was, because usually with this type of scenario, you see a big name and you assume, just because you've watched enough of these movies, that he's going to be there for like 5 minutes. Somebody posted a poster for some weird horror movie that had George Clooney, Laura Dern, and some other big name actor, like just up there at the top. I was like, how have I never heard of this? And then apparently it's because they're there for like one scene, maybe, up together. So it's just one of the things that they did when they were young. This is Michael Caine at the height of his powers, though. And he was like, sure.
He won an Academy Award around this time.
Crying out loud. I'll go on a Caribbean vacation. All right, next, Ludovic Bagman. He rewatched it July 6, 2022, 2.5 stars. And he says, I was definitely rooting for the shark at this point. Alex, you're well-versed in the slasher genre. You called this movie a slasher movie.
Oh, yeah.
In a previous video, even in the episode itself. Is that a thing? Like when you're watching Friday the 13th, are you rooting for Jason?
By the end, not of the movies individually, but like that's what it became, was you go see it and like, yeah, get him death blow. Freddy's an interesting one because they made Freddy more of like, when he wasn't around, you wanted him to be, because Freddy talks shit too. That was the biggest thing. Like Jason and Michael just stalked people.
Mm-hmm. Leatherface
doesn't talk.
No, but I'm saying, do you root for him? Because there might be something wrong with you if you do.
Yeah. And again, I separate entirely every other Texas Chainsaw Massacre from the original. And the original You can also go back in our archives. We talk about it's just like a thing that happens to you, and like you're kind of rooting for Sally to get away, but you're more just like paralyzed with terror as to what's going on. Freddy talks shit. Freddy, like, you know, kids dressed up as Freddy for Halloween, and Freddy, the idea was, yeah, you want to cheer him because you want him to. Eventually, the first one, obviously, he's a very bad dude, but it became the appeal of the anti-hero, whatever bullshit lines they would feed you. A new line would feed you about it.
Thankfully, the remake took him back to his
I was
roots.
I was rooting for the shark here to kind of just speed things along. As we talked about in the episode, though, there's only like 3 kills, and so he's definitely not putting up Freddy or Jason numbers in this movie, but it builds the anticipation. Yes.
You were rooting for Michael Caine because I remember you said that the movie got you when there's a fake out where it looks like he might be gone and then he comes back.
That's true. Yeah. So per usual, needed more Michael Caine, and I was glad when we got him.
All right, we're gonna close with this one. It's a little longer, but I think it's worth it. It's 1 star from Joel Hilke, who rewatched this on October 17, 2022. It's pretty telling that a list of Jaws movies in release order and a list of Jaws movies rated by quality is the exact same list, which sort of explains why the Jaws franchise abruptly ends. But good grief, since when did quality ever stop Hollywood from driving a franchise, especially a horror thriller franchise, into the dirt? I mean, how many Halloweens, Friday the 13th, and Texas Chainsaw Massacres? We only get 4 Jaws movies? Hell, they thought this franchise would get so abused, they joked about Jaws 19 in Back to the Future 2. A joke that almost instantly fizzled when Jaws Revenge did. Thoughts, Alex? Why don't we have Jaws 19, just Jaws 20 by now?
There had to come to a point where like the sanctity of the franchise had to be called in, because any of those other ones that have been mentioned, you do not get none of those came from a movie as historically important as the original Jaws. As much as I love the original Halloween, it is my favorite movie of all time. I would be a fool to say that it had the same relevancy as the original Jaws. I don't know. I mean, this did have a $23 million budget. For comparison, Nightmare on Elm Street, let's do The Dream Child Part 5. $8 million. So these movies were like cheaper to make. Let's do Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. $6 million. So it's...
Is that the McConaughey one?
That's 4. 3 has...
Viggo Mortensen?
Yes, yeah.
Working for peanuts there.
Ken Faree.
So the secret is, or rather the reason is that Hollywood somehow couldn't figure out how to make a cheap shark movie.
Well, the thing is, too, putting Michael Caine in your movie is not going to help anything. Shooting on location, we've talked about that Jason Takes Manhattan. You know how much happens in Manhattan? About 8 minutes of the movie. In this, they're like, yeah, we'll really go to the Bahamas and, you know, go to Hawaii and film this and whatnot. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, I wanted to look up for posterity. Budget of $600,000. I'm going to guess that a movie made with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger today would have a slightly higher budget than that.
That would just be the budget for their catering. And just for them.
Well, hold on now. I'm learning things on the fly here. I guess this premiered at South by Southwest in 1995.
Why not? I mean, it's Texas related.
And the cut that played there was about 15 minutes longer than what we ended up getting in 97.
Oh, see, now you have a quest. The quest for the South by Southwest cut of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4.
I wonder which was the one on Blu-ray a few years ago that Zellweger allegedly tried to get stopped from getting released. But all right. Back to your original question, though. It's both of those things. I think it's eventually someone probably said, like, we need to stop doing this. But
The voice of reason.
If not for morality, the bigger thing was this is just costing too much. We're not making our investments back on this.
Okay, but today, just as a side question, like, I'm surprised that today nobody thought of like, okay, how about we do that shark? Well, we mentioned on the episode, there's lots of shark movies out there. So is it just that it diluted the brand to where, like, what's the point of Jaws when you can just watch? What's it's a Deep Water? No, not Deep Water. Blue Water,
Deep Blue Sea,
whatever, Deep Blue Sea 17 or whatever they have on Tubi.
Yeah, we go into a little bit of that in the episode too, like Sharknado and all that. Like there'd be no. Well, I say that they'll figure out something, but I don't believe there'd be much of a purpose in trying to make a Jaws today, because also Jaws is like one of the #1 movies that, like, if you tell your kids or your grandkids, you're like, oh, it was the scariest movie of all time when it was released, and they watch it, they'd be like. It ain't The Exorcist, man. Like, it's not one of those movies that has like some really fucked up shib that happens in it, and you could watch it at any point in your life and be like, whoa. Jaws is amazing. If you see it really young, it might work, but even then, I don't know now with kids with their cell phones and MTV if it would work the same.
Like, where's the shark? I want to see the shark.
Exactly. And I went back to Jaws 3D, $18 million budget, $88 million return. And this one just barely cleared 50. So I think similar to Jason Takes Manhattan.
They just saw the returns, kind of like they saw the trend.
It's when Universal was just like, this isn't worth it anymore.
Let's make some quality pictures. Let's get out of this slasher genre.
What year? 87 with The Revenge. So they're like, this isn't working anymore. Let's do another Chucky movie.
All right. Well, we're done with quotes. We've come to the Josh Gad Minute portion of this little warm-up. Alex, where do we put Josh Gad here in the Bahamas? What role do we give him? Is he going to replace Michael Caine?
No. Michael Caine's like the lead appeal of this. Man, just give him the lead dude role. Lance Guest. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's a higher likelihood of him having good chemistry with Mario Von Peebles than there was with Lance Guest in this. And who really else? I guess he could be Sean at the beginning, the guy that gets his arm bitten off.
I don't want to see Josh Gad get mutilated by a shark. He could be he could be Chief Brody, and so he shows up in the flashbacks.
Yeah. They just, put him over Roy Scheider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There really isn't many options, and fuck it. Let's have some fun with this if we're doing it.
Yeah, I'll take Gad as the sort of the lead in the movie. That guy.
I mean, the shark is the lead, Julio.
The co-lead. Who has more of a lead presence in this movie? Not presence as in charisma, but just as, I guess, screen time. It's a son, right? It's Michael, as opposed to Michael Caine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll put Gad there. He'll find a way to make it memorable, unlike this guy. Because as you said it, I was trying to think of like one scene where this guy shines. I think it's when he's playing with the kid, and he's they're imitating each other.
Gad could nail that. Yeah.
Just burst into song. All right, well, Josh Gad, congratulations! You're the new lead in the Jaws the Revenge remake coming soon to a theater near you. Now, Alex, let's move on to trivia. What do you have?
Jaws the Revenge, released on July 17th of 1987, directed by Joseph Sargent and written by Michael de Guzman. Budget of $23 million, box office return of a little bit under $52 million. We go into a decent amount of the behind the scenes of this movie in the actual episode. It has an interesting development, if you're ever so inclined as to read about it. Sargent called the movie a ticking time bomb waiting to go off.
Should have been the tagline.
Sid Sheinberg, president of MCA Inc., parent company of Universal Pictures, expected a miracle, and we're going to make it happen. Sargent got a call from Sheinberg in late 86 asking him to direct the fourth Jaws movie with no script yet. And Sargent said, I didn't have time to laugh because Sid explained he wanted to do a quality picture about human beings. When he told me it's your baby, you produce and direct it, I accepted. According to Sergeant Scheinberg, cut through all the slow lanes and got Jaws the Revenge off and running. In a 2006 interview, Sargent said that the premise was born, quote, out of a little bit of desperation to find something fresh to do with the shark. We thought that maybe if we make a mystical point of view and go for it, magic, we might be able to find something interesting enough to sit through. So that's where the idea came from.
Desperation. That's what you want to hear.
There's some fun story. This is your teaser for the episode. Some pretty fun/funny, fun, and then parenthetically NY on the end of it. Lore around the original ending and the reshot ending. But what I'm going to talk about here now, take this home, is about something Jaws related that happened that same year. It was the release of Jaws on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh, that's awesome, because I've heard of this game. I've never played it. I don't think I've ever even seen it. I always get it mixed up with E.T. This is one of the reviled ones, right?
It's not good. It's not to the level of E.T. E.T. like almost destroyed the gaming industry. The 1-2 combo of E.T. and Pac-Man on Atari almost like ended. It caused a major crash in the gaming industry. I think that was the same year though. E.T., Atari,
Jaws the Revenge. No, it's just Jaws, right? It's not Jaws.
I'm sorry. It's not 87. It was 83. It was the gaming crash of 83 is what people refer to it as. So we had come a long way now. We got a fucking shark here. The cover is awesome. It's the famous Jaws coming out of the water, and it just says Jaws. And I mean, if you're even like a moderate gaming nerd and you see anything from this era with that LJN logo on it, you're like, uh-oh. So not promising. In the game, the player pilots a boat across the sea, randomly encountering groups of hostile sea creatures. When the boat hits something in the overhead map, the perspective changes to a side view. The player's boat releases a diver who battles various undersea threats such as jellyfish, rays, and smaller sharks. Occasionally, Jaws will appear on the map in the form of its familiar dorsal fin breaking the water's surface. If the player collides with Jaws' dorsal fin, they can momentarily control their boat in the side view encounter in an attempt to attack Jaws with depth charges. Jaws will always collide with the boat and release the diver into the water. Jaws will also appear after a brief moment if the player snags something in the overhead map with Jaws nearby. Just explain some of the creatures you go through here. Killing a specific number of smaller sharks will trigger a bonus game. In this bonus game, an airplane travels back and forth in a side view perspective and drops cannonballs on jellyfish, which will assume formations and movement patterns similar to the enemies in the Challenger stage of Galaga. Players can adjust the speed of the airplane depending on what direction it is traveling. The players were rewarded the number of conch shells equivalent to the number of jellyfish killed divided by 3 rounded down, hitting all the jellyfish awards 10,000 bonus points. An extra life is awarded every 30,000 points.
That's supposed to be Michael Caine's plane?
Yeah. Let's make the houses bigger. Once Jaws' health has been reduced in the side view encounter, the game changes to a first-person view on the player's boat. Players are given 3 charges for their strobe device to force Jaws to breach the water's surface. Timing is essential in order to force Jaws to breach the proper distance from the bow of the boat. Players can also jut the bow of their boat forward at any time in order to fully defeat Jaws. See the end of Jaws the Revenge. The player must jab it with the boat's bow at the proper distance when it breaches the strobe device. This can be quite difficult and requires much patience. Jaws makes random movements backward, forward, and side to side to make the final kill difficult. It mentions that the title screen has the John Williams score from the Spielberg film.
Well, I'm sure something like it. Not exactly the...
Oh, yeah, it is like a 8-bit. Computer Gaming World praised the game in its review, saying the graphics and animations and gameplay in Jaws are all first rate. I mean,
does the diver look like Chief Brody? It wouldn't be Brody if Brody was afraid of the water. It would be who's the other guy?
Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah. Oh man, a fucking little 8-bit Richard Dreyfuss. Like, Allgame gave the game a rating of 1.5 stars out of possible 5 in the review. The review commented the visuals in the game, noting a dull overhead view of you sailing on a boat and repetitive side view sequence. The review concluded, by the time you reach the final anticlimactic scene, you'll be so tired that you won't care if you kill Jaws or not. You'll just be glad the game's almost over.
Wow.
So there you go.
You built up the game to where I was almost curious to check it out, and then that review kind of brought me back to reality. Made me realize that it's probably not going to live up to the games that I'm used to playing now. It's not going to be The Witcher.
Well, yeah, it's a Nintendo game to begin with, so you have to taper your expectations. There was another Jaws video game, though. Jaws Unleashed is a 2006 action-adventure video game inspired by the 1975 film. It was developed by Appaloosa Interactive and published by Majestico Entertainment.
Please tell me you're the shark in this one.
The game features open world gameplay with the player assuming control of a large great white shark and being able to roam freely throughout the water, eating other animals and humans while destroying everything in its path.
I'm so proud of not just myself, but the gaming industry.
The gaming community at large.
Yeah.
Jaws Unleashed received mixed reviews on all platforms, according to the review aggregation website Metacritic. Most complaints against the game center around the game's glitches and freezing up and its camera problems. This is not an issue we had with the Nintendo generation. Despite this, the game was a commercial success, selling over 250,000 copies on Xbox alone, therefore earning it GameStop's worst game everyone played on earning it GameSpot's worst game that everyone played of 2006 award. I've heard of this. I've watched video playthroughs because that mixed review is funny because not a lot, but I have seen people say it's like one of the worst video games they've ever played.
They make you want to play it when you watch the... Okay, I don't know. I mean, I want to be a shark.
Oh, well, I mean, not to be dismissive of your question. Do you remember that era, though? Like, they were licensing so many past properties. Reservoir Dogs got a video game. They did, like, the Godfather, Scarface, Warriors. There was, like, a couple years there where it just seemed like any previous property or franchise was getting a video game. The Godfather game was pretty dope.
They get Pacino to do the voice?
No, but they did get like Brando. I don't think it was his voice, but they got like his likeness. They got it okayed for that. Pacino did Scarface, though. It was him in that. And I never played that, though. It didn't interest me.
Don't like the movie. Why would you like the game?
Reservoir Dogs I may have to check out at some point. Because why? How?
It's the side story of Mr. Brown. And it's just Tarantino, mocap.
Minority Report got a game. Like every other thing Tom Cruise has been in. He said absolutely not. So the character in that looks nothing like Tom Cruise. So if you're listening to this, hit the subscribe button and then comment if you've played either the Jaws Unleashed or Jaws for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Or a different Jaws game that we're just not aware of. If you develop your own Jaws game, if you have Jaws action figures in
GTA, I know at least in 5 you can get eaten by a shark.
How is it that so far Jaws is not in one of the Mortal Kombats as one of the DCLs?
Just comes out. We've talked about it before. I jest about the quality of these games, but society lost something when all major motion picture releases stopped getting video games. I guess that's what they kind of figured in 2006. And like, okay, so we have to give all these movies that never got a video game. Because, yeah, if The Godfather came out in 1993, NES, Super Nintendo, we were getting Godfather games side-scrolling with fucking Michael just running and jumping over boxes and shit.
Every time you need a gun, you run out of ammo, so you have to run into a bathroom, and then you come out with a fresh gun. And then, of course, you eat cannoli to like fill up your life bar. I like it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that takes us... we started with Jaws, and we ended up with The Godfather. This has been quite a journey, and it's not even the full episode. So check out the main feed of our podcast for our Jaws episode, where we talk about it as if it was a great movie because it's rotten on the tomato meter. And then we tell you how we really feel. I'm not going to spoil much. I'm going to say that we're probably not as negative as you would expect us to be.
I mean, just to be clear, also, it's not very low on Rotten Tomatoes. This is in that rarefied air of 0%ers that we've done here on the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's more things that you can be on the tomato meter. So check out Jaws: The Revenge, the movie, the podcast. You just checked out the video. And coming up next, a movie that, Alex, I don't think you're familiar with it. I'm not either, but the patron that demanded it, Stephen Holbert, is. And this is The Commitments, a 1991, might be a musical. Maybe it's just about a music band. It's directed by Sir Alan Parker, who I know as the director of the Madonna musical Evita.
91 musical comedy drama based on the 1987 novel of the same name.
All right. That really doesn't tell me much because I'm not familiar with the book either. So
the stage is set.
The stage is set. All I know is that it's fresh. So expect us to say really mean things about The Commitments coming up. You can watch that and get prepared. As usual, thank you for checking out our videos. Thank you for checking out the podcast. And we will talk to you again soon.